Peace, love, and Black Power family. Welcome to another episode of Get This Wisdom Live. I am your host, Shakti Sterner. And for those of you who may not know, I am also the editor in chief of Get This Wisdom magazine. And before we go any further in bringing on our very, very special guest, I must provide the disclaimer that you all may know or not know that I am a full time mother, a stay at home mother. I homeschool. My children are on the premises, so you may or may not hear them in the background. Please do not let that deter you from today's message. And but we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Today, family, I am so elated. We have the one of the most beautiful women that I have encountered in my time and on this journey. She's doing powerful things out there in Baltimore and all over the globe. I mean, that is so many different work she's done, mail treks and more. We have the beautiful and powerful, esteemed Dr. Oya Ma'at here today with us. I am super excited, Mama. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you. So, for those who may not know, and I'm sure there are not many who may not know who you are, do you mind providing our audience with an introduction of yourself, some of your history, and your platform?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, Mama, I want to thank you for inviting me on your platform. I've been watching you for a number of years. You've actually featured some of the people that I hold in very high regard on, Get This Wisdom magazine. And so it was just an honor for you to reach out and say, hey, I would love for you to come on my platform and dialogue about what you do. And so I just want to give you your flowers and let you know that I've been watching you for years and appreciate all that you're doing. I love your disclaimer, about being, you said I'm a full time mom and I homeschool, and that's powerful in and of itself. Being a mother, and then not only being a mother, but being a mother who educates her child and understands the importance of her child. And if I could have at least 100 sisters like you, we probably could take over the daggone globe. But anyway, peace and love to everyone under the sound of my voice. For those who do not know who I am, my name is Dr. Ma'at. I know on the screen you see in parentheses Mervo Zingatengo, which was the name that my Bamaliki ethnicity gave to me on February the 9th, 2021. When I went over to Cameroon, I traced my lineage to the Bamaliki people through African ancestry. And on my 40th birthday, I had a naming ceremony, and they actually adopted me back into, the Bamaliki kingdom, and gave me the name Mervo Zingatengo. And so that name means Queen Mother who travels the globe to elevate her people. And the king actually gave me that particular name. And so, anyway, for those who don't know who I am, my name is Dr. Ma'at. That's what I'm known as, popularly known as Dr. Ma'at. Um, I'm an educator. I consider myself an African centered educator. I'm actually in the process, Mama, of publishing some work on what it means to be, an African centered educator. And essentially, an African centered educator is one who operates and with an African centered worldview, and African centered values, an African centered mindset, and who creates African centered curriculum and utilizes, African centered pedagogy. And by African centered, I'm saying that we're centering, our history and culture, right? Our history, our culture, and our interests, right? And our psychology in whatever we do, And so that is what an African centered educator is. An African centered educator is also one who is concerned with developing the whole child. So it's not just about disseminating information, to the child or to the student or to the person. It's about, educating the whole child. So prior to us going live, Mama, you mentioned African spirituality. Well, that's a component, of an African centered educator. So we're not just talking about information. We may talk about African spirituality. We may talk about um, um, African history. We may talk about, character development. So all those sorts of things. So it's not just about disseminating just some information on a said subject, right? So an African centered educator does more than that. And so I am an African centered educator. Oh, one another thing, an African centered educator is concerned with educating the whole of Africa. And what I mean by that, I'm talking about continental and diasporan Africans. So that's why I travel. So I have programs that not only that I implement here in the US, but I take them abroad. So you behind the stage, I think backstage, you mentioned Mel Trek, or you may have mentioned Mel Trek during the introduction, but I created a program called Mel Trek, which teaches children about the history, culture, and achievements of melanated people. That program is being utilized in 30 states and 10 countries. I traveled to Cameroon and showed it there. Traveled, to Ghana, showed it in several schools there. Show Bell Trek in several schools, in the States. So again, it's not just about educating, children where I am. It's about, educating, the Pan-African community. And so that is also, a characteristic of an African-centered educator. And so anyway, so I'm an African centered educator. I am a mother. Um, I have three children. Two are grown. One is 13. Mama, I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but I'm thinking about, actually going a fourth round next year, um, potentially. So, you know,
Beautiful.
yeah, thinking about it, because the three that I have are, and we know in Black families we don't do the whole biological or non-biological, but they are non-biological. So I'm thinking about actually having my first biological next year.
Yay.
Year, absolutely. So thinking about doing that. And so anyway, so I am a mom. I am an educator. I do that for also a living. So I teach, full time. I'm a university professor. I love to create. So again, created the Meltrek program. We currently have two films. We're working on a third film, which I'm super excited about. It should be out by June. The first film, Meltrek Exploring Ancient Africa, taught children about the history, culture, and achievements of continental Africans prior to the Ma'afa. And so by Ma'afa, that's a Swahili word that was coined by Nana Marimba Ani, which means the great disaster. And so in that particular film, so we're talking about African history before the era of colonization and enslavement. And so the objective of Meltrek Exploring Ancient Africa is to teach our children that our history does not begin with colonization and enslavement. Typically, when our children go through the public food system, that is where they begin our history. And even if you go to the Smithsonian African Museum of History and Culture in Washington, D.C., they start our history with in the 1400s, with the slave trade. And so our history does not begin there. And so that was the objective of Meltrek episode 1, Exploring Ancient Africa, to teach our babies that our history doesn't begin with slavery. Meltrek episode 2, Exploring the Pre-Columbian Americas, teaches children about the history, culture, and achievements of the indigenous people of the Americas. So the people who are indigenous to America. Some people say Black and brown people, but the indigenous people, who were here prior to the arrival of Christopher Columbus. And so you learn about their history and culture and structures. And give thanks, next month I will be going down to Mesoamerica and seeing the history that we actually espoused in Meltrek episode 2. Meltrek episode 3, and I'm saying Meltrek episode 3, but it's really going to be like a mini series in and of itself, right? So it's Meltrek episode 3 is the third installment, but it'll be like 3 episodes connected to that. And that particular installment is called Exploring the Ma'afa. So in this particular mini series, we're going to explore the origins of the transatlantic slave trade, who started it, when, what, where, and how. And then there'll be another episode dedicated to how the system of slavery, it was about wealth, really, and wealth that was built on the backs of our ancestors. So we're going to explain how it became a global system of wealth for European nations, how European nations were enriched by the cultivation of those cash crops, rice, cotton, tobacco, and sugar, and how a lot of Europeans were able to build companies that still stand today, right? Fortune 500 companies, universities, and how a lot of them were able to still enjoy the wealth today, and what that did to how that also underdeveloped Africa. So we're going to focus on that in Meltrek episode 3, part 2. Again, where we're going to just focus on how, slavery became a system of wealth, all right, a system of exploitation, but a system of wealth that enriched European nations. And then in Meltrek, in part three, we're going to be discussing the freedom fighters, the resistance. Okay, because I don't think a lot of our children understand that we resisted colonization and enslavement. We always fought. Even if you read the works of the Portuguese themselves, they will tell you that there was always resistance on the continent, on the ships, on the plantations, right? It was always resistance. Wherever slavery was, there were maroon communities, okay? And I do salute Tariq Nasheed for coming out with his documentary, American Maroon. I actually texted that brother a couple of weeks ago, and he told me that the documentary should be available sometime in March. And so, I know that Tariq Nasheed is a very controversial person, because
We love them.
he's always in some stuff. It's going back and forth with folks, but I can't deny his documentary, like 1804, the documentary on the Haitian Revolution. Love it. And then the buck breaking documentary that came out last year, I think in 2022 or 2021, and then now the American Maroon, just to teach our babies that we always fought, and that we are warriors, and we come from a legacy of warriors and fighters. Everywhere there was slavery, there were Maroon communities that they were scared of. These white folks were scared to go near those Maroon communities, which were typically located in the forests, or the swamps, or in the mountains, and they were scared to go to the Maroon communities. And sometimes, we need to tell our children about the stories of the Maroons going to the plantation, rescuing our people, and burning down the plantation. And so again, that part 3 of that mini series, Meltrek exploring the Ma'afa, is going to focus on resistance and us being warriors. We're going to drive that point home. So I'm super excited about the Meltrek program. The Meltrek program should be in every household. It's not limited to just films. We have storybooks, we have activity books, coloring books, and we're also in the next couple of months going to make the Meltrek curriculums, or curricula, available for parents, okay, who homeschool their children. And when I say homeschool, I'm not, you may have parents who homeschool full time, or when your child goes out to the school system, they may homeschool kind of part time, right? But this curricula will be available. So there will be a curriculum for Meltrek episode 1 available, and a curriculum for Meltrek 2 that will be available online, hopefully this summer. And so, yeah, mama, I got a lot of programs. My newest program is Conscious Ingenuity, which is a program that utilizes STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics, to build character, confidence, and capabilities. That program is currently being utilized in several schools in Baltimore City. It's also being utilized in, a couple of African-centered institutions. Shout out to the Uhuru Academy, and also the Kamoyo Africana Shule, by Baba Amin and Baba Imhotep. So the Uhuru Academy was founded by Baba Amin and his lovely complement, Mama Nkoyo. And then you had the Kamoyo Africana Shule that was founded by Baba Imhotep and his lovely complement, Mama Ife. And so Conscious Ingenuity is currently being deployed in those African-centered schools. And so if you're interested in getting your child in Conscious Ingenuity, visit consciousingenuity.com and just sign up for our email list. And whenever we're launching programs, whether they're in person or virtually, you will be notified of that. And my last, what I call child, is the Asafo Training Camp, which is a camp that focuses on manhood development in boys between the ages of 12 and 14. And so I co-founded that camp with Baba Emotep. It launched last summer, the last week in July to the first week in August. Beautiful training camp for our young boys. And so I'm working on doing an Nzinga or Ya Asati way or Hetchesep camp, that focuses on the womanhood development in young girls between the ages of 12 and 14, because our boys need it and our girls need it as well. So I have that going on top of securing some buildings, on top of securing buildings um, for I want a brick and mortar for Conscious Ingenuity Institute right here in Baltimore. So that is my ultimate goal within the next 3 to 4 years, be able to have a brick and mortar institution for our babies to attend, that is African centered and STEM focused right here in the heart of Baltimore City. So, Mama, it's a lot that I have going on, traveling the globe to implement, these programs. I always tell folks that I want to be like a Booker T. Washington. You know how he started Tuskegee Institute, right? And but then he wanted to take his model abroad. So I want to take I'm going to take the Conscious Ingenuity model abroad, first to Ghana in May, and then to Haiti. And so yeah, so Mama, I've been busy. I've been busy in working, for our people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I must say, just sitting back listening to all these different beautiful, beautiful African enriched programs that you have, you know, played a part in or have not completely started yourself. I am completely amazed and blown away. So let's backtrack a little bit and speak upon Mailtrick. From my understanding, that is a family endeavor, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. Family endeavor. I've co-founded a company called Ed Enemy Productions in 2014. The idea came about around the fall of 2013, to start Ed Enemy Productions and to start Meltrek, but we manifested it in 2014. And so I co-founded the company with my family, my two sons, and well, two of my sons, and my eldest cousin, not eldest cousin, I'm actually older than him, but one of my cousins. And so we founded the company. So yeah, Ed Anime Productions is a family owned company. I wouldn't say operated anymore, because since then we've branched out. So you have students at Morgan State University who work for the company. You have some educators in Baltimore City who work for the company. So I would say that it's family owned and operated, in the sense that it's just family who operates it. It's definitely family owned, but since then it's family who owns it, and then we've partnered with a lot of amazing people.
Beautiful. And what was it like for them to be involved with the creation process?
Oh, I think you said, what was it like for them? They used to tease me and call me. They said I was like Ike. They said it had to be right, do your lines over, you got to get this straight. So they said it was like working with Ike Turner, everything had to be, on point. But I think that once they actually saw, what we produced, I think they were proud of it. I think they were proud of what they saw, proud of, the response that we got from Meltrek. I think that they appreciate being a part of the process. They were so young at the time. At the time, they were like 13 and 14, or maybe 14 and 15. They're now 24, and the 22-year-old, he's getting ready to turn 23 in March. I don't think they're at a place, just being candid, where they appreciate the totality of what we did. You know what I mean? Like starting a family business, being a part of the creative process, watching and seeing how we were able to manifest our ideas, as a family unit. I don't think that they really appreciate the totality. You get what I'm saying, of what they experienced. Not yet. You know how, like, in our early 20s, you know, the appreciation that we may have for our parents, in our experiences is not the same level of appreciation when you get in your 30s and your 40s and you reflect over your life, and that level of appreciation is nowhere near it was when you were in your 20s. So when you're in your 20s, like, yeah, ma, I appreciate you, dad, I appreciate you, grandma, I appreciate you, I appreciate this, yeah, yeah, yeah. But then when you get in your 30s, in your 40s, and you look back over your life and you look back over your experiences, that appreciation is on another level. And so I don't think they're there yet, but I do think that they appreciated, the experiences. Absolutely.
For sure. And that's a part of planting the seed. And it's a human thing. We never truly appreciate something while we're young in the process of. However, when we reflect on hindsight, we can truly appreciate the gift that we were presented with in various ways. So I'm sure that as they get older, they'll definitely, get it more. So with that being said, we spoke upon, well, you spoke upon character development earlier. And if you may, do you mind expounding upon the lack of character development that the public school system provides for young African boys and girls in this society?
Absolutely. I think, Mama, that was a phenomenal, phenomenal question. They don't. There isn't an emphasis on character. There's an emphasis in the public school system on following the rules, right? And so following the rules, and make sure you stand in a single file line, don't talk while the teacher's talking, sit in your chair. So the rules, yes, so it's an emphasis on following rules, but it's not an emphasis on developing your character, developing those soft skills, teamwork, communication. And maybe I wouldn't say that. I know that in schools they do group activities and things of that nature, group projects and stuff like that. But I'm talking about your character in sense of like your integrity. You know, the I've never been to a public school system where there was a lesson about integrity, or there was a lesson about the Ma'atian principles, truth and justice and reciprocity and order and balance and harmony and propriety. I've never been in a public school system that had lessons, that delivered lessons centered around those things, right? And so all of that is about character. When you think about the Nguzo Saba, Emoja, unity, and Kuji Chagalia, self-determination, and Ujima, collective work and responsibility, Ujama, cooperative economics, Nia, purpose, Kuumba, creativity, and Imani, faith. When all of that is about character building, right? Character building. So building our character so that we can go out here building our character so we can be the people that we need to be in order to build and protect what we need to build and protect for ourselves. And so it's not an emphasis on that. And so again, as I explained earlier today, when I kind of summarized, what an African centered educator does, is there's a strong emphasis on character development as well as disseminating other information. Our great ancestor, Dr. Martin Luther King, said that, and he wrote a paper at Morehouse College in 1947 entitled The Purpose of Education. He was 18 when he said this. He said, the true goal of education, he said, is the cultivation of intelligence plus character. So we can't say that as an educator, that you're truly educating a person if there is only an emphasis on developing their intellect and not their character, right? And so we got to make sure that character is right at the center. So you have a lot of these children who are running around here, Mama, who are filled with information. They can tell you Pythagorean theorem. They can tell you Ohm's law. They can kick some physics to you, some chemistry, some science, some math to you. But they have piss poor character. They're disrespectful. They don't understand how to respect authority or respect elders, right? So you see a lot of this stuff happening. And matter of fact, I saw an IG video that broke my heart. It went viral. There was an IG video of some men in a Chicago school, trying to handle some young boys who were just acting out, and you could see the hurt. So, you can see the hurt in those young boys. So they probably had a lot of issues going on in the family. But I also want to say this too. somebody isn't teaching these children character. So you're talking to people any kind of way, you're disrespecting yourself, you're disrespecting elders, and you wonder why that's so, because there's no emphasis on the development of character in the public school system. But African centered education focuses on not only information, not only just knowledge of self, but on self development, right? So, with knowledge of self and also through character development. And so, again, man, character development is essential to the education of our babies.
Absolutely, I concur, and I appreciate you for speaking that truth to power, because
Sure.
I'm here in Detroit, and when I look, at the youth here, it's a very very sad state. I was speaking last night. There was a 15-year-old young black male
Mm,
on the day that this society calls Christmas or whatever, and he was at a hotel party. And there's one of my children. Forgive me for that. He was at a hotel party and he
mm,
killed his 15-year-old best friend. This is a
mm,
15-year-old young black male that has the anger, if you want to call it that, within him to commit this act against his own best friend.
mm.
So, for me, it looks like the public school system, it's a breeding ground for these behaviors within our children. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is a breeding ground. And then also the music, mama, the music. And so that's why we have to be cognizant of what we listen to, what we allow our children to listen to, because it's music, it's drugs, right? It's all of those things. It's your peer group. I was reading, not reading, but I remember having Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu on my platform last year. And when he came on, he talked about the top four influences on the youth. The number one was social media. Was social media. The second one was peer group. Peer group. The third was music, and the fourth was games. So those are the top four influences on our babies. Now, when you think about music, right? A lot of the music, and I'm talking about specifically about hip hop music. I don't even want to call that stuff hip hop music. I would call it rap at this point, Mama. Like when I think of hip hop music, I think of Tribe Called Quest. I think of Brand Nubian. I think of De La Soul. I think of The Roots. I think of Leaders of a New School. I think of that when I think of hip hop. I think of like the Ron DMC era. That to me was hip hop. Curtis Blow, all of them. To me, that was hip hop. LL Cool J, that's hip hop. Grand Puba, you know what I mean? Like KRS-One, that's hip hop to me. Now, when I
Beautiful.
think of when I think of rap music, I think it's your Cardi B, I guess. Your Meg The Stallions, uh, your uh, your Gunners, and your um, what's the guy name? Kodak Black. Those sort of folks. Little Dirk, little baby. I think
Mhm.
that's rap music, and I think that with rap music, the lyrics are just degenerate. I think that it doesn't necessarily have to be. I think that a lot of what I'm qualifying as rap music, the lyrics are degenerate. It promotes degenerate behavior. It promotes destruction. It promotes death and destruction, a death culture, death and destruction. And you just constantly hear sex, money, drugs, murder. And now, it used to be sex, money, drugs, murder. Now it's sex, money, drugs, murder, and suicide. Literally, like they have lyrics that talk about, oh, I want to kill myself. And so then you wonder why you see an increase in suicide amongst young people. Well, they're promoting suicide, in these songs. They're promoting, again, sex, drugs, murder. And so when we see our children, you know, participating in these behaviors, right? You got the lyrics, influencing them, and then you have their peer group, who is also listening to the lyrics, right? So it's this whole little culture, amongst them, where they're promoting this stuff, and they're promoting it to one another. Man, you heard the little baby, you heard the little, and they're going back and forth. And I don't think that they nor their parents or guardians understand, the ramifications of allowing your children to listen to that stuff. You are what you see, you are what you hear, you are what you ingest. I just want to say it like that. Whatever you take in, you become. And so how do we take in things in this realm that we live in? We take in things through our eyes, right? We take in things through our ears, what we hear. We take things into us by what we eat. So whatever we take in, we become. And so if you're taking in toxicity via your eyes, toxic images, toxic messages, toxic food, then you as an individual, you become toxic. I want to say that again. You
We
take it. Look, Bob. Look, Bob. I'm over here. Like you take it, and that's when the spirit hits you. That's when the ancestors start talking through you. Because I take no credit. I take no credit, Mama, for my words and my thoughts and my actions. I always say that it was given. You understand? It was given, whether it was poured into me by my mother or my father or the educators or different people who've poured into me for 41 years. You understand? So I never take credit for that. I always say that I'm just a manifestation of everything that was poured into me. So I take no credit for that. But what I was saying was that I don't understand. I don't think that people understand, you know, how we become what we ingest. And we ingest things through our senses, right? Touch, smell, taste, see, hear, right? Through our senses. And so if we're ingesting toxicity, then we become toxic people. And so that's why when certain music come on, like we had a family game night last Friday, and one of my cousins, and I love her to death. She's always lively. She wanted to put on Glorilla, and we're like, man, the elders and us, we're like, we don't want to hear that garbage, and it's no diss to the young people, but we just understand that we don't want to subject ourselves to toxic messages. There's certain things that I don't watch on television anymore. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to look at toxic images. So certain things I don't eat anymore because I don't want to fill my body with toxic ingredients or toxic foods. So we just have to be mindful of what we ingest and understand that we become whatever we ingest. You know what I mean? And understanding how that impacts us. And so we just have to be mindful of that with ourselves and when we're cultivating and developing children. Um, I think that's one of the most important task that we have as a people is developing the next generation, right? When you have a child, I love how Baba Baruti in his book To Educate a People breaks down the difference between raising and rearing your children. And he's saying, a lot of us raise our children, and raising your child, I'm not saying that it's easy, but it's very basic. It's just, surface stuff. Let me feed the child, clothe the child, send the child to school, make sure that I provide, a shelter for the child, and protection, in the house for the child, and so the basic things, right? That we can do for animals. I mean, I'm just, the basic thing that you could do for a cat or a dog, right? But when you're rearing an individual, it's more to that, right? You are aware of the developmental psychology of that child. Wait a minute, that's Dr. Amos Wilson, the developmental psychology. So you're aware of how their psychology is developed, and you are in the business of optimally developing this child. So there's an emphasis on their, so your emphasis on developing them mentally, right? Emotionally, spiritually, their character, right? So it's more to that than just food, clothing, and shelter, send you to school, send you to church, or send you to the mosque, and let you go outside. That's raising our children. But we need to get into the business of rearing our children, which is something that you're doing, Mama Shakti. And so, again, developing the next generation is one of, if not the most important thing that we as a people will do. because ultimately that shapes our future, right? Mom Shakti, like ultimately, like the people that we develop, that is going to determine what kind of future we have as a people. All of that is predicated on our children who will be there. You and I, we're not going to be there, not in this body. They're going to be there. So if we want a bright and prosperous, right, and healthy future, then we need to be in the business of developing people that will create that, you know. And so I'll land my plane.
Nothing wrong with it when spirit take over. I must give acknowledgement to Mama Cherie Riel in the comment section. She is also an African centered educator here in Detroit, Michigan. So, thank you for tuning in to us today, and maybe you two can
I need
communicate
to
later
connect with her.
on and
I need to
collaborate.
connect with her. I need to connect with
Absolutely.
her. You say she's an African centered educator in Detroit.
Yes,
I need to connect
absolutely.
with her. I need to connect with her ASAP.
Yes, ma'am.
ASAP.
So, we don't have much more time with you, but I do just have two more questions, they're based on one of them are the Asafo program that you created last year, the
Yes.
camp, the training camp for your African males. Can you provide us with a little bit of insight about that program and how important it is for young African males in this society to have a rites of passage program similar to that, and to be able to cultivate what's going on here.
Absolutely. And so absolutely, oh man, we have to get back to rite of passage programs. And shout out to the brothers and sisters who have created rites of passage programs and who have been implementing them for years. I'm saying, as a collective, as a people, we need to get back to, sending our children, right, our sons and our daughters, through a rite of passage. When that child is born, when he or she goes through puberty, when he or she becomes, an adult, when he or she becomes an elder, and then when he or she transitions, right? Those rite of passages. And so we got to get back, I'm saying culturally, as a collective, getting ourselves and our children involved in rite of passage programs. The Asafo training camp, as I stated earlier, we are assisting with the development, or focusing on the development and assisting with the development of manhood development within young boys between the ages of 12 and 14. I feel like I butchered it. Let me say that one more time. With the Asafo training camp, and Asafo, in a common word for warrior, this particular program was developed to focus on and assist with the manhood development in young boys between the ages of 12 and 14. Okay, the reason why it does not qualify as a rite of passage program, um, it's 1 week. Usually, like a rite of passage program is much longer than that. So we wouldn't qualify it as that. And initially, I wanted to qualify it as a rite of passage program, but then when I talked to the elder Baba Imhotep Fediu, he said, "No, Doc. Usually the rite of passage programs are longer," and he's correct. And so we just say that this is a program to help facilitate, manhood development, within young boys between the ages of 12 and 14. And so for 1 week, we took the boys out to a dome in Drew Hill Park, in Baltimore City, West Baltimore City, and every day, they were engaged in various exercises. So Sunday we had orientation where they came in, and the parents and the boys, they met the Babas. There were 3 Babas who coordinated the program. So you had the 3 Babas. I was there, and we spoke about the camp and introduced ourselves to the parents. And then the Baba said, "You got to go." So all the mothers, the mothers and myself, we had to go. So all the women had to go. And so the men wanted to use that time to, bond with the boys, which was phenomenal. I think it's very imperative that iron sharpens iron. Iron needs to sharpen irons. Our boys, and I didn't understand this until I was in my early 30s. Our boys need to see a model of manhood. And so, as women, we can put the stuff in them. We can say, "Look, this is how men." Look a man and when you see a man and you shake a man's hand, make sure you shake his hand. Give him a firm handshake, son. Look a man in the eye. Make sure that you always look men in the eye because you don't want to look down and he think that you're weak. Never show weak. So we can say those sorts of things, but what I've come to learn is that, they need to see someone, a man, act that stuff out. You know what I mean? So we could put that in them. We could put that in our boys, you know, you know, but it's beautiful when they see that in action, right? Because a lot of times, our children pay attention to not what we say, not what we say, by what we do, by what we show them, right? And so, anyway, I love that the elders were right there. So those boys were exposed to African centered values and principles in their household, but now they are around men who exude those principles, men who practice those principles, And so again, that was a beautiful thing. So on Sunday, that it was orientation, and then Monday through Friday they had a schedule. They would come in, pour libation. So the elders were there. A male elder would come in, pour libation at the beginning of the day. They would have a circle where they would pour into each other and tap in. How was your day? How was yesterday? Are you okay? How are you feeling today? Then after that, they would go and they would exercise with one of the babas. So they were doing exercising. Then after that, they were tapped into their book, African Manhood in the 21st Century by Baba Emotep. So they were studying, what it means to be a Ma'atian man. What does that look like? What does manhood look like? They were engaged in chess. So they played chess in order to foster critical thinking skills. They also had to go through an urban safety workshop, right? So how do you stay safe when you're out in the streets, when you're navigating through, Baltimore City or whatever city? How do you navigate, in a safe way? How do you keep yourself safe? How do you keep your family safe? When you come across a police officer, right, or you get pulled over in a car, how do you conduct yourself? How do you keep yourself and your family safe? They talked about that, and so it was a beautiful. They talked about the Nguzo Saba, and then on Saturday we had like a ceremony where all of the boys were presented with certificates. We had food outside under the dome, so parents got to come there. There was a message from our great elder scholar, warrior, Baba Imwalimu Bamani Baruti. So he blessed the scholars, blessed the Asafo with a beautiful message. And so we had that. And so it was just a beautiful, beautiful training camp. And so we are in the process of developing a training camp for our young girls. Our young girls need it. And somebody might say, well, Dr. Ma'at, why did you all start with the young boys? Well, we started with the boys because here in Baltimore, a lot of the violent crime is being committed by preteens and teens, black male preteens and teens. A lot of this stuff. I mean, you have kids of 14 and 15 shooting folks, and so I said, well, let me get a hold of our boys. And I'm not saying that to say that the girls aren't engaged in violence. They are, but in Baltimore, it's a lot of the teenage black teenage males who are committing these crimes. So I said, let me focus on them. And so anyway, that was the Asafo training camp. And like I said, we're getting ready to create one for young girls as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. Definitely the same energy present here in Detroit with young black teenage males and things of that nature. So I fully agree that that's of the utmost importance. And before we, get ready to let you go, I definitely want to acknowledge some of the people that you mentioned. Baba Baruti, he's a very, very beautiful, beautiful man, doing great works for our community and has been doing so for a long time now. We have some footage with him that we want to get out to the public soon. We want to acknowledge Tubman City, Garvey Land. You guys out
Come
there
on.
doing some powerful, powerful, powerful work, yo. I am in communication with quite a few people from Baltimore that are active in the community, and I must say, you are leading the charge of transformation in this society. So definitely give yourselves a standing ovation for that. We acknowledge Baba Kwame Apaya, who's out there doing work. Yes, I got you. We also acknowledge Sunny Reds, PFK Boom from 300 Gangsters out there patrolling the community in Baltimore. You know, it's a special love coming from Tubman City. Like I gotta get out there sooner than later. So, before we do let you go, we would like to ask you one more thing as it pertains to applying African centered education here. For those who may be looking to, make a move into that realm, or for those who are utilizing the public school system, what are some practical ways that we can provide the balance of education in this society?
Can you tell me that one more time? Can you repeat your question one more time, sister?
Absolutely. I'm just looking for you to, give a couple of suggestions for the parents here who may be looking to implement African-centered education with their children.
Okay, so one thing you can do, and this is what I did in my household prior to pulling my son out of the school system completely. He's now with Baba Amin at the Uhuru Academy full time. But when he was in the public school system, what I initially did was I would educate him at home through films and books that I would get from, shout out to Everyone's Place cultural bookstore in Baltimore City. It's not even just a bookstore. You can get out anything cultural there. But they ship books, locally, nationally, and internationally. So shout out to Mama Tabia and Baba Nati. But I would get books for him, um, and I would make sure that I grabbed books for him, that was centered around our history and our culture, films. For him that was centered around our history and culture, so he was exposed to that. Also, any type of cultural events, whether if it's happening in the DMV area, or even in Philadelphia or New York, I made sure that he was present. And so, even if your child is in the public school system, you can still create an African centered home environment. I'm not going to say could, you should still create an African centered home environment for them. So when they come home, they see us. So for example, you see my aunt on my walls, and then Nguzo Saba is on my walls. um the oh my goodness, the Sankofa bird is right behind me above my dry eraser board. The Adinkra symbols are there. If you I have a bookshelf, a huge bookshelf in the shape of the African continent, the red, black, and green. The Ankh is down. So all throughout my house, you see Africa. You see us, you see our history, you see our culture. So you see African icons throughout our house. Even in my son's room, he has, Malcolm X hanging on his wall, Muhammad Ali. So we have to be rearing our children in an African centered home environment, right? And also espousing them to African centered education through books and films. So you can still do that if your child is attending the public school system, which I highly recommend that you eventually get them out of. Um, because get them out of it, because they're being miseducated by the day. They aren't receiving an education at all. I would call them indoctrination boot camps. That's what they are, indoctrination boot camps. Okay, indoctrinating boot camps. Read the book, The Falsification of African Consciousness, by Dr. Amos Wilson. In that book, he'll tell you that in the public school system, they utilize a Eurocentric curriculum, and it all is centered around European history. And in the public school system is to advance European interests and to maintain the status quo. As Dr. John Henry Clarke stated, he said that your enemies aren't going to educate you and give you the tools to achieve power, right? And so to think that, I'm going to send my child through the public school system and it's going to empower them, if you feel that way, you're sadly mistaken. They're not going to educate you so that you can achieve power, right? And so and that is the whole purpose of education. If it's not about you know uh, um, achieving power, right, or gaining power, then what are we being educated for, right? A lot of us are walking around with college degrees and PhDs, master's degrees, bachelor's degrees, and can't even solve the problems in our own community. So how educated are we, right? Did we really receive an education if we can't solve our problems in our families, problems in our communities, right? Problems in our people, our nation? Are we really educated? So again, family, educate, give your child an African centered, education, because African centered education, it informs our babies of who we are, why we are who we are, right? And who we need to be in order to achieve two things, and that is liberation and sovereignty. An African centered education will give your child, or instill within your child, an African world view. A lot of our children who matriculate through the public school system, they end up, okay, within them, you know, developing within them a European worldview. So you wonder why educated blacks or educated Africans in America operate in the best interests of European people or think and behave like European people. Well, they've been indoctrinated with a European worldview. But an African centered education gives you an African worldview. Ashe? And so African centered education is online now, right? Before, people could get away with the excuse, well, I can't get my child out of the public school system because I don't live near an African centered institution. I know that that was my excuse. So I'm not like just throwing daggers. I'm being candid. That was what I was saying. Like, okay, in Baltimore, we had the Watoto development. There used to be the Ma'arifa, but that's no longer in existence. So there aren't any African center schools around. There's some in DC, but I live 45 minutes to an hour from DC and I have to work. But when the pandemic hit, a lot of African centered institutions went online, right? Shout out to Brother Marcus Klein and the Freedom Home Academy. Shout out to Baba
Ashe.
Amin. Yes, shout out to Baba Amin and Mama and Koyo, the Kamali Academy, Akabin House. A lot of them went online. And so now there's no excuse, Mama Shakti. Like, it's no excuse because it's accessible to us. And African centered education is the best education for African children. And so if you are a parent, check out these names, check out these people that we are talking about on this platform. Baba Amin, Mama and Koyo. Or you just go to uhuruacademy.com, UHURU academy.com, okay, or akabinhouse.com, right? AKOBEN house.com. Zayax Institute by Q Butter. You can go there. I know he has a website.
Ashe.
I don't want to butcher the spelling of his website, but the Zayax Institute by Q Butter, that brother's getting ready to host a science fair in Brooklyn, and I'm going to be up there with him for that. And so shout out to that brother, but get your children and give them that education, all right? And so anyway, like I said, if you're in the public school system, don't let if your child is in the public school system, don't allow that to impede you from still creating an African centered home environment for their child, but eventually pull that child out of that system completely and put them in an African centered educational institution. If you want to contact me, I don't know if you mind me giving my handles, Mama Shakti.
We encourage that. We were actually going to ask you to do that.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. So, family, you can find me on all social media. I'm on Facebook, Dr. Oya Ma'at. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram under Dr. Ma'at _. So follow me on I don't say follow me, connect with me on IG, because I hate the word follow because it sounds so sheepish. But follow me, or not, I'm sorry, connect with me on IG at Dr. Ma'at _. I'm also on Twitter as a Dr. Ma'at. I'm also on TikTok. I don't know how long I'm going to be on TikTok because every other day I'm getting account warnings because of the type of videos that I post. But for now, I'm on TikTok under Dr. Oya Ma'at. And also, family, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have a podcast called Truth to Power Talk with Dr. Ma'at. And I go live whenever I feel like it, Mama Shakti. So that's why I always tell people subscribe and hit the notification bell so that whenever I do go live, you receive a notification. But on YouTube, you can just type in Dr. Oya Ma'at, and I'm telling you, my channel will pop up, in your search feed. And so thank you, Mama Shakti, for having me on your platform today. I truly, truly appreciate, I don't consider me being a guest because I feel like we're family, like
Thank
I feel like
you.
it's a family thing, but I do appreciate you opening up your platform to me. And please connect me with that African centered educator. I would love to connect with that sister.
Absolutely. And we thank you again. We know that your time is limited. You have so many things going on. We really appreciate you. Um, we giving you your flowers. You've done so many phenomenal things and continue to do those works, and we are honored to be a part of that tribe with you. We want to echo her sentiments and getting that African centered education. There are no
Ashe,
excuses. Shout out to
ashe.
Baba Amin and the Uhuru Academy, and also Q Butter. Some we have footage with them. So if you want to get more introduced with them, just scroll down the video list. They're there too. Thank you so much again, Queen Mother. We
No problem. Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank
You have
you.
a beautiful, beautiful day,
You do the
and
same.
a BB Fiodia.
A baby Fahodie, Amani Na, Amandala, peace and power.
Peace.
Peace.